chair of the panel this year. We have Paul Rust, who's vice chair, and we have Rashir Dahl, who's did I say your last name right? I never say it before.
Yeah. No, Dahl is fine.
All right, thank you. Who's the landscape architect, professional landscape architect, and we have city staff and both in video and on the call. What staff is here? We have Joseph Kalenda, who's the acting director of planning and development, and is it Nitu?
That's right.
I said it. Thank you. Who's with the planning staff, and anybody else on staff that we should know about? Who's going to be speaking? No? Okay. Then the other thing to point out is we are recording this, correct? All right. So yeah. I assume that is there anyone who is attending, certainly on the panel, it's only the panel and the applicants who will be speaking. Is there, let me know if anybody has a problem with or concern about the video recording, which is standard practice. No? Okay, so let's go into the agenda. We have adoption of the agenda. Somebody want to make a motion?
Sure, I will.
Okay, second, anyone?
I'll second it. Okay.
Oh, Faye, you're here too. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, good. Then any comments otherwise about the agenda? All right, we have two projects. Then I'll call the question. Approval of the agenda, show aye. Raise your hand. Or just simply, anybody object? No. All right, so let's go to adoption of the minutes of the last meeting. I was not there, but I did watch the video. I think everybody did a great job. The minutes I won't comment on because I wasn't attending. Did anybody send in any comments or corrections about the minutes with the draft that went out? No. Okay. Anyone? Anybody want to move? Can I ask somebody to move the minutes?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, second. Do we have a second?
I will.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any comments or corrections? No? All right. I thought that, then can we have a vote on the, Sharon's joined us also. Good. Let's take a vote on the adoption of the minutes of the last meeting, which was on February 15th. Those approve? Anybody object? I'll assume that unless there's an objection, you've agreed. All right, adopted, carried. All right, thank you. So now we go into our two applications. The first one being 877 Kent Street, which is coming back to the panel. It was before the panel in our October meeting. So I'm going to turn this over to I guess Joe to fill us in briefly, and then we'll go to the applicant and then the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just a brief application, introduction rather. We're rezoning from duplex to 2 single families on this one, and last time you saw this was on October 19th of 2021. Need to next 2 slides, please. Yeah, that one there. Yeah, and at that time, you asked the applicant to consider a few design improvements, and I'm sure she will speak to that today. There is an updated submission, next slide, that gives you a sense of yeah, that one there, what the building looks like today. And the official community plan, next 2 slides, please. Designates the site as mature neighborhood, and certainly it supports single-family homes, duplexes, and triplexes. We do have it is a major development permit, form and character area, and there are a number of design guidelines that apply to this particular designation, and you've seen these before. The process from here is next slide, please. Yeah, the process was we held a public information meeting June 3rd last year. Nobody attended. This was reviewed the first time by ADP, October 19th, and here we are today for your review. We will from today proceed to Land Use and Planning Committee. Eventually goes to council for first and second reading, then public hearing, then third reading, then final reading of bylaws, and then we go on to building permits and so on. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the applicant to show you what changes have been made since the October 2021 meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and the committee and city staff. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here again today. If you'll just give me one moment, I'll just share my screen with you. Sorry, it's just shared it with you two just a minute ago. Just bear with me for one moment, please.
No problem. Mr. Chairman,
There we go. Okay, thank you for your patience, everyone. Okay, so can you confirm that you see my PowerPoint?
yes.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So we are here today to speak about our project at 877 Kent Street. As city staff has stated, we are applying to have the change from a duplex into single family RS2 zones. The existing homes to the north and south of the property are here as they appear before you. In front of or east or front of the subject property is the city engineering works yard, which is straight across the street, as you can see there. The neighboring new builds in the area, they're mostly single family homes. They're comparable. What we've designed is hopefully comparable to the new construction in the proposed areas, and our new homes will integrate with the character of the nearby builds. We have kept in mind the mature neighbor infill permit area requirements as we have come back here today. Here's just a sample. We've engaged Huckleberry Land Design. Ann Kula is here today to speak, if required, on behalf of the landscaping design. So the trees, we are trying to maintain the trees as possible. There is one tree that is going to be removed because it's in poor condition. The city bylaw requires that 2 trees be replaced for 1 removed tree. We will be planting 4 trees actually, 2 trees in each lot. So we are, in line with the OCP policy of supporting to retain the trees as much as possible, and thereby planting 4 new trees. And here we have our changes. These are the renderings of the 2 homes that we are proposing to build here. I'll just speak to the changes and some of the concerns that were brought forward in the October meeting. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to either stop me as I'm speaking, or if you want to just wait till the end. So first of all, what we've done is the front entrances are clearly more visible from the street. That was a concern that was brought forward. So we've raised the height of the front entrance so it's more visible from the street. We've also moved on the recommendation of staggering the homes, and that was recommended last time from the committee. So the north house has been moved forward and the south house was moved back. Therefore, the setbacks have been staggered by about 4 feet so that they're slightly offset as they're viewed from the front. We have the front garage wall heights. We've reduced those by 5 feet, thereby trying to reduce the dominance of the garages. And we will be incorporating even more landscaping to help soften the effect, more so than that we even have here, as much as we can. What else have we done? The pavings of the two dwellings. So there was a recommendation that the sidewalk between the homes. So what we've done is we have moved the sidewalks for both homes into the middle here, so that, as you can see, that it's joined here, so that when the neighbors, if they're there together, I know in the October meeting, the wording courtyard effect was somehow used. So this isn't, I wouldn't call it a complete courtyard. However, here the two neighbors can kind of meet should they need to be, and then the sidewalk has been joined in the middle going to the back rear of the homes for both. So both of the neighbors can, get to know each other, and then they could be just, heading to the back together. And then that brings us into the rear photographs, or the rear renderings. In our October meeting, concern was brought forward that they were somehow identical. So we've revised the rear elevations, and the changes can be noted here. Mm-hmm. We've moved the window for the north house, removed that, and the access to the back decks and the patios have been revised. We've used different building materials on both to ensure that they're not mirrored images. The stone is using that we are proposing to use, again, will ensure that the rear facades and the front are not identical. So I'll just go back to the front here. Last time there was a recommendation, especially with the price of gas now and everything being EV ready, that we should have EV ready charging stations roughed in, and we definitely will be actioning that, and we will have EV ready charging stations installed in both of the dwellings. I think that's they'll both be in the garage, and I think that's all that's the comments about the changes speak. So in conclusion, approval of the subdivision, we're committed to building 2 single-family homes that are attractive while ensuring that compatibility with existing adjacent homes remains intact. And we are working within the mature neighborhood infill guidelines. We're committed to working closely with ANCULA, City of White Rock officials, and the advisory design panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now, the focus here will be on, I think it should be on the changes since the October meeting. And there was the document that you provided. I want to make sure everybody's aware of the summary of changes that give an explanation of those. So Jim Basto is the only new member who is here, who wasn't part of it, and certainly he may have some questions. But let's start. I'd like to start with questions of clarification, if there are any needed, from the members who were on the panel in October. So, Paul, can I ask you if you have any questions for clarification, and then we'll get to comments later on.
Thanks, Bill. The only area of concern, there's two actually questions I have. One is the garage door on the unit to the left. As we look at the front elevation, it looks like clear glass. Is that the intent?
Yes, it is the intent of that, just to make it look a little bit more modern. So the two homes are not identical and they're not mirrored images. So that's what we were striving to do with that. Of course, we're open to recommendations. If you find that something else fits better into it, we're open to that. But the main purpose of that is just to try to have that the two homes are not identical.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering about why you would want people to look into the garage, which is usually a mess.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be clear. It appears clear, but on you wouldn't be able to see through it. I don't know what the proper wording for that be, but definitely would not be clear glass.
Okay.
It's just reflective with privacy panels.
And then the other issue I have is the stone material at the rear elevation. In both cases, it doesn't look appropriate for a stone facing, in that it doesn't seem to have proper support, even though it's probably synthetic stone, which doesn't have any weight virtually. But I would prefer to see some other material like horizontal siding or something of that sort back there.
Okay, but is that it, Paul?
That's
right
all.
now? Okay, thank you. Let me go to Rashir. Are you here? Are you there?
You're muted, Rashir.
Sorry,
We
I
may
was
have
muted,
lost-
yes.
No, he was muted.
Yeah, I was muted. Can someone bring up the rendering on the screen, please, the front rendering?
Did you, okay, Anita, are you going to do that? Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
there it is. Well, no, that's the
That's the
rear.
rear.
Okay, is it possible to bring just the rendering and not the write-up at all?
Can someone do that, or I can just pop in a picture?
Can I suggest
Enlarge
that someone on staff can show, there's all the documents that were sent to us, and perhaps it'll be easier for staff to bring up some of those documents as we're requesting them. And zoom
Thank
in
you.
if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, thank you. So now, just a quick question regarding clumping of the shrubs provided in the front yards, both of these. In your landscape plan, you've shown cornuscusa, which is a rather small tree, and then you've also shown columnar Japanese flowering cherry to the right side, which are probably not the true representation of the way it's shown here. If you see here, the plants, the shrubs are kind of strewn around rather than forming a composition along with the tree. They look almost like weeds planted there. So is there a way, is there a need that you want to plant just some shrubs around, not have a pattern or something that forms some sort of a movement, visual movement as well, number one. And secondly, you've shown most of these plants as smaller ones. You've some hostas, you've shown some Chinese Adelspay, and on those shrubs which are rather small, 12, 14, 16 inches. When we've got such small trees, you could also take some larger shrubs, have some rhododendrons, some azaleas, some ones that do form some sort of a body rather than just have a few low plants strewn around. So that, by and large, that is what I would recommend. And The next question is, have you raised the entry to the units significantly since the last time? Because they're definitely more prominent than the last time. And what has happened to the floor level?
Hello, Rashir. Thank you for your questions. In terms of the shrubs and the planting, I may ask Ann Kula to speak. We will be working closely with her, definitely taking your recommendations to the forefront with her, and we can definitely, replace whatever shrubs with some of the rhodos or whatever suggestions that you may have. We'll work closely with Ann. In terms of your question about the raising for the front door, it hasn't impacted the inside ceilings. We've just raised at the front so that the front door is more prominent as requested.
So has the floor level remained the same?
So yes, the floor level has remained the same. The ceiling entry is still 12 feet.
Okay. And previously, I just to jog my memory from the last submission, were the entrance landings lower, or were they at the same level last time?
No, Rashir, they were the same level last time.
They're same.
The
It's
only
just
ceiling has been raised.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne, did
Okay,
you wish to
thank you.
speak?
Okay, can we go to see Faye? Or I can't see Faye. Is she on?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you see me?
But-
Can you see me now?
Okay, Faye.
Can
No.
we go back to the front view again? Just like we just did, with it being enlarged. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and I can see you now.
Oh, so I have the question I have, it looks quite different. The height definitely, the overall height of the house looks much taller. And I'm just kind of going off memory based on the adjacent homes. So you're saying there's no change there.
Okay, thank you, Faye, for your question. No, as you may recall from our October meeting, the renderings were quite different, and they were, so to speak, incorrect. So what we did is we engaged a new professional who are for the renderings. Thereby, we have the renderings are much more detailed, and yes, we have changed the houses, some of the, made some of the recommendations, but the house sizes within the lots, they're the same. They may appear, like you're saying, taller, but we haven't changed the specs of it, no.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it definitely looks. And there's quite a difference. The only other comment that I would make is the house on the southern house that has the contemporary finish. There's quite a variance between that and the other house. So one looks very West Coast contemporary, and then the other one looks early 2000s. That's the only one.
Yes, thank you. And that's what we were trying to achieve, so that they're not mirrored images, but thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Faye, are there any other questions?
No, that was it.
Okay, thanks. So now, I guess, Jim, sorry, let me go to Sharon, who was also on the panel before. Is Sharon
Hi.
with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I actually wasn't at this meeting. I just want to make a few comments. And the other comment I have to make is I'm sorry I have to leave at 4:30, so I will be leaving at 4:30. Just wanted to let you know that. But
Okay.
my comments on this is I'm super happy to see a change from a duplex to 2 single-family homes, which is less massing for the neighborhood. And I know that people have that concern, especially down in this area. And I am thankful that this is happening. Frustration for someone building 2 single-family homes because it's rezoned is if you were building a house, they wouldn't have to come to the ADP. And so this is really hard. And I appreciate their patience in this, because getting 2 houses to market would be the goal, and it's something that we require. So it's a frustrating, a duplex I think is harder to design and fit into a neighborhood than 2 single family homes on smaller lots in an area that they already have lots like this. So, and I agree with Faye. The second, you may want to zhuzh up the north house a little bit too. It is a little, I would even maybe say 90s, and I know the 80s are in, but the other one is so modern that you could maybe zhuzh it up. That's my personal opinion. It's not something the ADP needs to say, but anyways, that's kind of all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon. Sorry. Thank you, Sharon, for your comments, and thank you.
Okay, so now let's go to Jim, who, this is all new to him. So Jim, are you there?
I am, yeah. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, this is new to me, so looking at it with fresh eyes. It looks like the changes that were requested from last time have been implemented. So I guess I'll just go to the north unit there. I think that's lot 1. Yeah, it is the plainer of the 2.
Mhm.
In the front, if we look at, I'm sorry, could you bring up that front perspective again? First of all, I think the windows on that first unit probably could be a little bigger. They seem to be bigger on lot 2. Maybe it needs more window.
Mhm.
The hip over the garage, I think that kind of dates it a little bit. And the stone, as far as that unit, I don't know if you need stone anywhere on that building. It seems to be added. It doesn't really make sense to me why the stone is there. It might be cleaner if you sort of give you a bit more of a modern punch. If you lose the hip, you lose the stone, and give it more of a contemporary look.
Yeah.
That would be, and also the coloration. I know that these are meant to be different buildings. They are floor plans that match pretty much, but maybe there is some color that you could share between the 2. I really like the gray of the lot 2. I don't know, it carries on the fascia, so maybe that's good enough. But yeah, so that's for unit 1. Unit 2 is the more interesting of them. That north parapet wall on the garage, I don't know why it's higher than the rest of the garage. It seems almost like you're creating a kind of a barrier to your neighbor. I'm wondering if maybe it's better to just take that down, have a nice clean garage, a clean parapet for the garage. Other than that, I think materials are good. Yeah, I think those are my main comments for that. For lot 2, sorry, for the first building, the only hip roof that I see, other than on the back, is over the garage. So yeah, again, I think that just seems a little out of place.
Yeah.
Other than that, looks
Okay.
very good to me.
All right. Am I the last one then? I'll have questions. Nobody listens to me. It's supposed to be questions and not comments, but that's okay. We'll get to the comments for other people too. I've got a question about, if we look at this rendering, I can certainly see, or it appears that there's the sidewalk between the 2 houses. And there's no fence there at all. Am I correct? Between the 2 houses, between the lot 1 and lot 2. I mean, there's no room for it because it's just a sidewalk, a sidewalk that looks the same that's between the 2 houses, a concrete, or not pavers, but a concrete sidewalk.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. It is just a concrete sidewalk for now. If the neighbors choose, they can either leave it open or put shrubs in or fence, whatever they choose. Yes.
Okay. On the left of the left house, where I can see it, it looks like grass is going to the left of the house. So that's what it looks like to me. And I'm not sure about I can't see to the right of the house on the right, which is the north house. But it looks like grass. Can we go to, can we see the landscape plan, the new landscape plan? with the two. Okay, can you zoom in? I don't know if that's the one I'm thinking about. No, not that one. That's it. Can you zoom in? It looks to me that between the two houses, it's not marked, but it looks like it's gravel. So it just could be, which it shouldn't be, I don't think. Remember, there was real comment about
Yeah,
discrepancies between what was where on the left of each house, between the houses, whether what was gravel, what was sidewalk. But I went back on this one, on this landscape plan between the two houses. It just looks to me like it's gravel, although it's not marked. So you want to clarify that is clearly intended, because this is a landscape plan that I presume you're going to build to. But so does this need to be changed to clearly show concrete or paved walkway between the two houses?
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So that is the combined site plan that was submitted to the city. In the middle, it's not grass and it's not gravel. It will be like a textured concrete. So it will be exposed aggregate.
No, okay. I hear your answer, I guess, but sorry?
I didn't say anything,
Well,
sorry.
Okay, but when it's approved, does this need to be changed to clearly show that? That's all I'm asking, because this is the only place that I see anything about the materials that'll be on the in the landscape between the two houses. And on the left and the right, it looks like concrete. On the left, to the right of the, on the outsides of the two, it looks like concrete. So I'm just going to say that the assumption that I'm going to make is what we're talking about, which is, sorry, well, not concrete, a gravel on the sides of the house. Is that right? On the exterior side.
We're going to have, sorry, go ahead.
Can I quickly jump in, Mr. Chair, for a quick clarification? On the landscape plans, it shows the concrete pathway going to the back very differently. If you see on this, it does show to the south of both the buildings and gravel alongside both for the north, whereas in the other plan you just showed, the concrete paths show bunched together. And looks like there is a grate over these window wells, but both the paths seem bunched together here. And on the extreme sides of the two houses, it's blank. So one's assuming that there'll be gravel. So yeah, just notice that discrepancy. I don't know which one is right.
Okay, so let me say my understanding, and then the designs need to clearly show this, that between the two houses it will be concrete or a solid material that between the two houses. To the left of the south, on the exteriors of along the sides of the two houses, the other sides to the north and to the very south, that will be gravel against the house. And then some lawn, is that correct? Rashir, is that your understanding?
Yeah, looks to me that on the south side of both the properties from the landscape plan, it appears the concrete was being proposed, concrete path was being proposed, and the north side of each of the houses had gravel paths. Whereas in this plan, it looks like between the two houses, the concrete paths are being proposed to go to the backyard.
Okay, Sue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So so as per your understanding, between the two houses, it will be like a concrete pathway, okay? And on the exterior of both of the homes, it will be grass with maybe some gravel. Yes.
Okay.
And if we do need to have that updated or clarified, we can work with city staff to ensure that once hopefully it's approved, and then city staff and us, we can work together to make sure that that is updated to whatever the understanding that we come to today.
That's what all I want to make sure that I didn't misread it and that you and staff would work together. Thank you very much. I think that is all, that's the only question I have is clarification of that. So now can we go, some of the members already made comments, but we'll go back through and see if there are comments now about the design that will lead us to a recommendation. So I'm going to start with, well, why don't I start with, but you can make questions again if you have it or comments. So let's go back to Paul.
Yeah, could I have a look at the front elevations again? I believe that's east, facing east. Well, that'll do. I was thinking more of the working drawing elevations, but that'll do fine. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If you look at the front elevations, I can't quite understand why the canopy over the entrance is so high. It looks out of scale to, you know, what would normally be an entrance. Why would you have a 12-foot high roof over the entranceway like that? It doesn't do anything aesthetically that I can see makes any sense to me. And I'd rather see you line that, if you look at the, call it the left side elevation, you've got a hip roof running along to a balcony, and then suddenly this roof is way up at the height of the balcony railing. And, you know, the scale, it's just an uncomfortable scale at the entrance. It looks weird anyway. That's my view of it. So, yeah, it's just a matter of scale and whether it's an appropriate. I can understand raising the entrance level, which is actually the level of the main floor. But this roof over the entrance, drop it down, please, to the height of the fascia that runs along the left side, you call it. I think that's the south side, I assume. And then my comment about use of stone. Use of stone should look as though the stone is heavy, not as though it's wallpaper, and which is you often see nowadays. But anyway, and I agree with the comment about the one house is quite modern looking, and the other is kind of retro. I think if we could get the two to look more in the same era, that would be better. Even using a different siding, and I agree with Jim's comment about the size of the windows. Make them big and generous. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ruchir, comments?
Yeah, more or less, majority of the comments since the last submission have been addressed, and I guess even the one on the south side, the modern looking house is well crafted as well. I see why there was a little bit of a parapet bulk created on top of the garage door, because they wanted to have some sort of massing being comparable on each of the houses. However, I am kind of in agreement that the one on the right side, one on the north, is probably doesn't keep pace with the styling to the one to the south. So I guess there could be slightly different nuanced differences between the two, so that they kind of reflect having been built during the same time. I totally agree with Paul's comment there. It seems as if in older times, the vinyl siding used to kind of go across all faces without any modulations of colors, textures. Seems that is the kind of approach taken on the north house. So a little bit of coordination, not a whole lot, will go a great deal to help this out. But more importantly, I would like the planting landscape in the front to be more thought out rather than just equal distribution of shrubs along the path. There could be, as I said, a scaling of plants and shrubs to be done with slightly bigger ones at the back, smaller ones in the front, clumped together with some foreground and background form. And so, yeah, that's not a tough thing to achieve. Just a better mixing of plants, choice of a better palette. And I kind of like those paths, both of them going in the middle. Just would like you to treat the separation, the fence, etc., in a slightly more sensitive way than just having a fence in the middle. Maybe have a little bit of a relief area with vines, climbing, etc. But other than that, I guess a major improvement from last time. And yeah, I don't think it's necessary to bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye.
Oh, you're muted, Faye.
Faye, are you still?
Sorry about that. I'm here. So, Sue, I have a question. What is the distance between the two homes? So you've got, is it 4 feet or is it 8 feet? Because it's 2 single family homes. Does it have to be?
It's 1.2 meters from the property line. So it's about what? A little bit less than 8 feet.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so we're bound.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're bound by the setbacks and stuff. So with that, it's just a little bit less than 8 feet between both of them.
Yeah, it doesn't look that based on the drawings. Just a comment. And the only other comment, I think it definitely is a great idea in terms of this community to have 2 single family homes for sure. The only thing, again, just want to bring up, I think that the home on the north home doesn't really complement the home on the south. And my understanding was that they needed to have a West Coast theme, and the home on the north doesn't look very West Coast to me. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, I know you have to leave fairly soon. Are you still here?
I am still here. I don't really have much more in the way of comments. I think we're on a consensus that maybe just a little bit of new looking at the design of the north house as far as the aesthetic finishing would be, if it's all, I mean, I don't know if you can use some of those hardy, the big boards, which is the gray ones that's used. I can't remember what they're called. Sorry. I mean, could that be used to have so that it's not just a bunch of stripes that looks like vinyl siding? And I know it's not vinyl siding, but that's what it looks like. So I don't know if that could be used anywhere. And if the windows were different at the top, I know they're different, but I agree that there needs a little bit more. It kind of looks like it's squinting a little bit, the white one. So I'm sure that someone can come up with something that will modernize. It'll be modern, but you don't want it to look like it's from the 80s, please. I'm sure it's perfectly beautiful inside, but that's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I guess the comments that I had earlier, plus I forgot to mention the garage door on the south unit is the reflective glass is pretty distracting. I don't know if that's successful. I would recommend solid gray panels. I think, they're going to get dinged. They're going to get, they're not going to look that great over time. So I would go with a more solid rather than reflective there. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So now, is that it? Okay, so I'll give you my comment. I want to, the applicant came back and addressed the concerns we had. So I think we have to give a lot of credit to that. I'm fine with this. In fact, I like the house on the left. But that's my opinion. I think everybody has their own opinion about things. The one on the right, yeah, I don't disagree with any of the comments that the panel members have made. I agree with all of them. In fact, I'll add about the last comment was made about the house on the right, the squinting. I'm surprised that there aren't bigger windows on the front to take advantage, although I know it looks out at the what do you call it, the work yard. So maybe it's not the greatest view, but I was a bit surprised to see this design come back to us and not take advantage of larger windows from inside looking east. But you know what, those are my opinion, and everybody will have their opinion. As chair and as a member of the panel, I'm a little question what we do when we have these additional comments that come out, because the comments about the right and the 80s look or the 90s or whatever year you want to pick about the right, I can't say I disagree, but I don't know, as a panel, we want to encourage significant changes that come and not come back to us. And yet I don't think it should come back to us, but I don't think we want to encourage changes that then somebody will say, well, it went to the panel, and after the panel was happy with it or reasonably happy, then they made all these changes because of comments from the panel. So I think we have to, if we're going to let this go forward, which would be my suggestion, that we should expect not to have significant changes. If we're serious about significant changes, like on the one on the right, on the north side, then I would say that it would have to come back, which I don't think is appropriate. So, it's all in the eyes of the beholder, and I'm not a professional architect, but so I'm not sure where to go with this. I will take, obviously, Sharon, you have a comment that you'd like to make about that?
I'm going to go back to my first comment. If someone was building a single family home, they wouldn't be coming to the ADP. And this is a really difficult position because it's being rezoned, and it's being rezoned thoughtfully from a duplex to two single family homes. I think that our comments are more food for thought. I don't think these are comments, and obviously, and unfortunately, I wasn't here when it was presented first, but obviously the changes were addressed. I agree with you that it should go forward, but I think these are just from professionals giving advice that could be taken or not, because these are single family homes and it's personal taste. So I don't know, I'm going to refer to Joe on this. How does this fit in? And we're having a lot of say here aesthetically, but they're building single family homes. So this is where, to me, this is a little unfair, because it's not a duplex, and in a duplex is different because it has a different kind of massing. So I'm just asking in the future, because I think that in the future, this will be something that hopefully we can do some gentle densification and get larger lots instead of building massive houses and not even being duplex, to subdivide and have two homes. But how much say does the ADP have on two single family homes? Because normally you wouldn't. So that's just the confusion that I feel is out there.
Yeah, thank you. It's not just confusion. I think that's an inconsistency that single family homes don't come to us, and yet we put these homes through a grinder, but they are given to us, and I think we are doing our job when we're asked. So I think there are very good comments. My point is that these are excellent comments. You say food for thought, but would it be appropriate for there to be any significant changes as a result of food for thought? Because then we say that if it's significant changes, then we're not, what are we passing? Anyway, I've said my piece about it. So anybody else want to join in? Otherwise, somebody would if you don't have a comment, make a recommendation.
I have a motion to make.
Okay.
I would say that, the proposal be worked upon along with support from the staff based on the comments given by the panel, and then to the satisfaction of the staff members taken to the council.
Yeah.
I'd support.
I'm sorry. Perhaps it's the sound. Is this fit? Can you is there wording that relates to the similar ones that we have in our terms of reference? It doesn't have to be one of those.
Yes,
but
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, perhaps
Yeah.
I can help. I think what Rich here is doing is passing a motion further to subsection M, sub 2 in your terms of reference. And that's the kind of motion that goes like this: a recommendation to support the project proceeding to council, subject to considerations, specifics to be listed, made to the satisfaction of staff. So I think what Ruchir is saying is, let's have the applicant consider your comments and then work with staff to implement whatever those comments they feel is appropriate in this case, and then move it forward to council for consideration. I think that's the intent.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the intent. Now, are we, I noticed that in the minutes of the last meeting, that was the recommendation for the last meet, the Oxenham panel. And then it was staff that, as part of the recommendation, it was staff that did the bullet or the subpoints based on the discussion. My question is, leave it to staff to come up with those bullet points underneath this? In other words, where it says specifics to be listed by the panel, leave it to staff to take these comments that we've had to list them in the recommendation, or does the panel want to try to do that now, which is awkward?
No, I think, in my opinion, we've given ample food for thought, and they've done significantly well to bring it to a level which is satisfactory, and in my opinion, we can trust them to develop it to a level where with the staff, so it can be brought to the council.
Okay, thank you. Does somebody want to second that recommendation?
I second the recommendation again.
All right, any
It was the
comments?
motion, I assume, so therefore, that's Bashir's motion, I second it.
Thank you. Any comments about the motion? Right, should I call the question? Those in favor, raise your hand. Of the voting members, I can't see Jim, Faye.
Yeah, I've raised my hand.
Yep, my hand's up.
Okay, I don't see it, but I'll believe you.
Okay.
And Jim?
Yep, my hand's up.
All right, thank you. So that's you. Anybody disagree? Otherwise, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Everyone, I
Thank
have
you,
to go.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you
Cheers,
very
Sharon.
much, Mr. Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and the committee
Sorry.
and city staff.
All right, thank you. So should we move on to the next one, which is the Stayte Road?
Yes, please.
Sure.
So we'll go to Joe to do an introduction, or somebody on staff to do an introduction of this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do an introduction. This is the 1091 Stayte Road. And this is an application to rezone from single to a duplex. Really the opposite of what we just did on 10th Street. In this case, when we look at the OCP designation, it is mature neighborhood. And in fact, it does provide for single families, duplexes, and triplexes. And it does require a minor development permit form and character. There is some tree management considerations that are part of this application. And there's also the mature neighborhood infill guidelines, which are the same as the guidelines you used at the previous application. And in terms of process, the public information meeting was held October the 8th, one attendee. The ADP review is today, March 15th, after which we will forward this to Land Use and Planning Committee for first and second reading and public hearing and third and final reading. So I'll turn it over to the applicant if you like, Mr. Chairman.
Well, before we do that, I want to stay with your presentation and see if And are there any questions? You went through that so quickly and efficiently. I want to see if I have a question about it. So
Yeah.
can we just ripple through those much more slowly and see if anybody has a question as we go through?
Sure.
You don't have to repeat the words.
Okay.
I have a question on this. Is the proposal, does this proposal meet all of these requirements for the RT1? Are there any variants?
Yes, it does. Without any variances so far. There was some concern about the interior side lot line and the fact that the application has some stairwells leading to the basement. And on our first view, we thought that was a structure, which would have been encroaching in the side yard. But when we examined it more carefully, we realized that no, that is not in fact a structure, because it is at ground level. So the short answer to the question is, yes, the application conforms to all of the building envelope regulations in the RT1 zone.
Thank you. Any other questions from other panel members as we go through? Or can you go to the next one? Just speak up if anybody has a question. Not, and the next one. And, oh, what's the second bullet? Proposal requires minor development permit. Could you explain what that is, what that means?
Yes, along with the zone change application, we also need a minor DP to be issued on this, because it is a duplex residential. Then that triggers the minor development permit form and character requirement for a.
Okay, but it
Yeah.
but it meets all the zoning for RT1 and it meets all the OCP policies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions about that? And we'll focus on the mature neighborhood development guidelines as we go through later.
Yeah, I do have one question. So this is a straight rezone? This is not a development permit rezone. This is just rezone application right now?
Yeah, at this point, it is a rezoning application. That's what we're looking at. Yes.
Okay, and then it will be resubmitted for this minor development permit?
No, I don't think so. For a minor development permit, it is staff that issues a development permit, not council.
Okay, so we won't see this again, I guess is what I'm saying.
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Next one, or maybe that's the end of the. Yeah, can you, 2 trees proposed, encroachment into the new house and will conflict with the, but those 2 trees, both of those are,
Well,
the
those
2 trees, are
those
those
2
on
trees are
site or
proposed for removal. Those 2 trees are proposed for removal.
Oh, but those are on-site trees.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. Okay, so I think what we're going to focus on, I hope, is as we go through the proposal, that these are really important guidelines that we want to make sure that we're satisfied with. Okay. Anybody? I've sort of taken over this right now. Anybody else have, before we go to the applicant? Before, no. Okay, should we go to the applicant?
All right, I'm here. Let me just share my screen here. Okay.
And could you introduce yourself and your relationship to the applicant?
Absolutely. Can everybody see the plans and hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I can see you too.
Perfect. It's hiding earlier. All right, so hi everyone, my name is Jamie Walgren. I'm the owner of 1091 Stayte Road, the property here. And I'm going to be doing a short presentation on the proposed duplex that we have for this property.
Okay.
So our proposal is to rezone from RS1 1-unit residential to RT1 duplex residential, as we spoke about just now. We've been in communication with city staff throughout the design process and have done our best to meet and exceed their requests. We've gone through many design iterations and we hope the compromises that we reached are acceptable to your panel. The City of White Rock official community plan and duplex design guidelines have been considered in all aspects of this proposal as much as we can. Nope, let me just we go. All right, so we'll start with the location. We're on the eastern boundary of White Rock, Stayte Road and Cliff Avenue, partway up the hill. We've got a corner lot. It's bordered by Stayte Road to the east, Cliff Avenue to the north, an unused laneway to the west, and a single family home to the south. It's a mature neighborhood, which is the ideal location for a duplex as per the OCP guidelines. When we look at the neighborhood, and we have here a quick view of some of the neighboring properties. I'll speak briefly about the neighborhood context, which is important in the OCP and duplex design guidelines. We have a mix of older houses, newer single family homes, and a commercial building to the north. The White Rock side of the street also has several new single family homes. Most of them are zoned RS1 with a few RS4. There's a good mix of ages. Houses viewable from the property have buildings that were built in the 50s, 70s, 80s, 2000s, and 2010s. Yeah, a mature neighborhood for sure. The modern houses in the neighborhood tend to be larger, cover more of the lot, and have flat roofs. The older houses are smaller and tend to have sloped roofs. Some more pictures of houses that have a somewhat similar design style that we're looking at up the street, down the street, and along Cliff Avenue here. When we get to the existing house, we have a 1950s era small house currently on the property, 67 years old, somewhat old and unattractive. It's not energy efficient, not well insulated, not as airtight as a modern home would be. Retirement age. A new house would be larger, increase the square footage available for habitability. A new house would be built to modern building standards and codes. It would be energy efficient, meaning well insulated, airtight, and with modern mechanical systems. Additionally, housing affordability is an acute and serious problem in our city and the greater region. This development will allow 2 families to live in an area where currently only 1 family can fit. For the site plan, we have some more zoning information here. The building itself is located in the middle of the property and respects all setbacks from front, rear, and the side yard. The driveway will be onto Cliff Avenue, the less busy street. On the property, there are 17 protected trees that have been identified, of which 15 are to be retained and 6 new trees planted. The 2 trees in sort of the 2 corners here that are slated for removal. We've put a lot of effort into retaining the maximum number of on-site and off-site trees. There are a few challenging off-site trees on the neighbor property to the south, just past the south property line. We've incorporated a portion screw pile foundation for part of the house in order to retain these trees and not impact them. We can get to here to see some elevations. We have a contemporary style house. Roof sloping and gabling has been incorporated, as this is important in the community plan and duplex design guidelines. At the same time, it is a modern building in a modern style, and many houses in a similar style exist nearby. We have what we hope here is both a modern building and still have some of that sloping and gabling. Another major item in the duplex design guidelines is to avoid mirroring, and we've tried to put a lot of care into this to avoid that mirroring. Most significantly, the front door for each unit faces in different directions. Unit A is going to be facing eastwards. Unit B's front door is facing northwards. We have different window placement on the 2 units. We have different balconies for each unit, different cladding differentiation, and wall recessions, which you'll see when we get to the renderings. When it comes to cladding, we have cladding materials, chosen 3 of them, hardy plank siding, stone, and fiber cement panel with metal fascia and trim. The massing of the building is broken up using these cladding materials in staggered fashion. We've chosen natural color tones as suggested by the community plan. Sort of on the right hand side here, there's some pictures of properties elsewhere in East White Rock that have a similar design style with some of those similar cladding materials. When we get to floor plans, 2 units, each unit has a bedroom on the main floor for accessibility. I decided to add that. The basement, we have some extra square footage thanks to a room under each garage. I like about the floor plans. On the main floor, we have 3 bedrooms per unit, 2 bathrooms per unit. On the main floor, a small deck. We fit in an extra small deck on unit A as well. And then we get to the renderings. North elevation, east elevation. I think on the PowerPoint that I sent to the city, I mislabeled as west elevation. It's actually the east elevation. But we see from the north elevation, or anyways, from the renderings that we have a modern design. Again, I hope you can see how we tried to avoid that mirroring using several different methods of the window placement, cladding differentiation, patio differences. Building massing, we also tried to be minimized as much as possible, again, with wall recessions, window and cladding differentiation. We can see some of the trees and bushes that we'll be putting in as well to partly screen the house from the street and soften it. Imagine as they grow over time. Okay. Bit of that. Some more elevations. This rear south view is not visible from the street. It's only visible from the south neighbor. And that neighbor has the great big trees on the sort of west and south side of their house. So they won't be seeing this big massive block. It'll be a lot more obscured by the trees. When we get to landscaping, we did make up a fairly detailed landscape plan, examples of proposed trees to the left. We do have when it comes to concrete walkways, we have a concrete walkway around the building. But other than that, we've tried to reduce the hardscaping and maximize the softscaping as much as we can. The driveway proposed is the minimum size possible while still being accessible to those garages. Separate access to garages is not permitted per city requirements. We will be having a new sidewalk added to the north where there is currently no walkway. When it comes to yards, Unit B has a walkout area from the side door to the yard. Unit A will be having its walkout area from their front door. We have a 6-foot privacy fence and a 3-foot frontage fence, important on the Stayte Road side, which is a little bit the busier street, Cliff Avenue being the less busy street. The trees for retention will be outside the immediate disturbance zone caused by construction. Construction in close proximity to the tree protection zone will be under arborist supervision to ensure that no retained trees are harmed during the construction. So at the end of the day, I hope this project will replace a small, aging, inefficient home with 2 modern homes. It'll help the urgent need for more housing that our city and region does suffer from. And under current zoning, a single large family home will be built. Would instead be built of similar size to this duplex, but without the advantage of developing Cliff Avenue, the sidewalk and roadway there. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's go to, if nobody's going to listen to me, but I'll say try to keep to questions of clarification, and then we'll come back to comments, although I know it's difficult to separate them sometimes. So let's go back. Jim, we'll start with you if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. So are you asking if we just have questions at this point?
Just questions of clarification. And then we'll come back to comments about it, because once we go through all the questions, then we have a clear understanding of what's being proposed before we make comments about what the proposal is. But it's hard to sometimes separate those out, so I'll leave it up to you. I'm not going to cut you off if you make a comment.
Yeah, no, I'll hold off on comments, but I guess the only question is, so each unit is roughly how big? What's the area of the units?
I believe we have about
2,000?
I believe it's about 3,500 square feet per unit. 3,300. 3,500.
No, I mean, I'll comment, I guess, in the next round. That's the only question.
Okay. All right. Sharon is left. Is that right?
Yeah.
She said she had to go. Okay. Faye?
Can you possibly, hi, I do have a question. Can you pull up the front rendering of the 2 units? Okay, that works. So the north elevation, that is facing north.
Correct.
Okay, so it looks like the garages, so the east elevation, I'm not sure how that fits in, because is the picture on the left-hand side, is that photo relevant to what the 2 homes would look like, the duplexes?
Yeah, so what we've got here, I mean, if you're standing at the front door from this one right here, the north elevation, you'll be facing north. And if you're standing at the front door on this guy right here, you'll be facing eastwards. You can see the post, kind of it matches this guy right there.
Okay, it's just, it's turned around. So when I look at the photo of the north elevation, is if I'm standing across the street on Cliff, the north side of Cliff, this house would be on the south side, but facing north. Would I see that?
Yep, absolutely. You'd see this. This would be like a picture maybe from the parking lot of that commercial building.
Okay, okay. So it looks like the garages are joined, but the second level of the house, there's a separation.
Yeah, and the garage joining, that is something that is required by the city. We can't move those garages any further apart because the driveway has to be a together garage. We cannot make or together driveway. We can't make the driveway separate. So of all the pieces in the house, the garages are the two that have to be sort of side by side mirrored. Everything else about the house, as much as possible we've done to avoid that mirroring.
Okay, so what's in between the on the second level?
Yeah, so that's a gap. So that's another sort of strategy to avoid mirroring, right? The houses actually aren't attached on the top level. You can see right through.
Okay. All right. No, that was my question. I just wasn't sure when I looked at the photos. And one other question. So the house on the east side, is that taller or is it projecting forward? It looks like it from the drawings, or do you like from the photo?
Better way to look at that would be the renderings, or sorry, the elevations. And if you look at the elevations, they are actually pretty even. The roof line is the same.
Okay, it's the same. Okay. It looks a little bit different in the photo of the rendering.
Yeah, the angle of it, or what have you. This part right here, I suppose, is not a solid roof. This is like a what do you call it, a gabled roof? Not a gabled roof. It has slats, like the gaps, so it's a bit different than
I see.
solid fascia.
That's
right
yeah. Okay, that makes
maybe why
now. Yeah, I can see that now because the reflection is on the front there.
Yeah, it's a bit tough when you have that site dead exactly on center most times when you're looking at it. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Rushir, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so the gap between the two houses on the second level, did you consider that clubbing them together, and if you were to have additional space to leave out on the sides, would decrease the volume of the built mass, at the same time gathering of any unwanted debris between the two? At the same time, you talked about the energy efficiency. There's going to be additional perimeter, because I see their bedrooms on both of the sides of those two external walls. So there'll be heat loss, and if they were clubbed together, there'll be less heat loss on either of those houses as well.
Yep. So I guess that's a good point. Like, I mean, the reasoning between separating that we separated it like that was for the purpose of avoiding mirroring. I imagine that if we wanted to stick them together, then you'd take away two exterior walls, which you can mitigate by insulating those walls. I mean, so instead of two exterior walls, you'd have one interior wall, which would be much less insulation requirements. So yeah, but that can always be mitigated by more insulation. But yeah, that being said, the reasoning behind it was to avoid mirroring specifically. But they could be put back together. Yeah.
Is there a logic you chose to do those picket fence, which are rather traditional in front, rather than have slender metal fence or something that was more transparent? Because I see that you have a good layering of plants on the perimeter of the property itself.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we got a picket fence here. I mean, it's a rendering. I'm sorry, it's not perfect. Perhaps the better way would be to look at what the landscape plan has for that. Maybe I can just.
That's exactly where my question originated from.
Yeah,
That
like,
in the landscape plan, I see a lot of, if you show me the planting there, not just, but the planting, yes. So if you
Yeah,
see the planting, there's a significant amount of planting which does provide barrier or privacy from outside. So do we need to have such a strong picket fence which is closely spaced at the outside rather than have something which is much more dainty and something that is lighter?
yeah, that's definitely an option. Sort of the reasoning that we had beside a fence here is that we wanted each unit to have its own yard, right? So we kind of achieved that in the fact that this guy, Unit B, has its own yard section over here, and Unit A would have its own yard section over here. If you took that fence away, would that kind of get rid of their yard a little bit?
Yeah, my suggestion is not to take the fence off, but have something lighter. So visually take advantage of, this is an object in space kind of an arrangement because it's a corner property with a lot of boulevard scape both on the flanking street and the front street. So the division or separation between the property and the outside does not need to be so huge, so strong, and be able to allow for more visual space there.
Okay. Yep, I understand. Yeah. The fencing could definitely be looked at. Yeah.
Sure. Now, can I look at the rear elevation or the rear rendering that you just showed? Yeah. So I see a lot of muted colors in the front, and you see kind of a bold rust colored or even closer to maroonish kind of color at the backyard. Is there a reason to choose contrasting color at the back, especially when you have a large wall with small windows, and this would rather be staring close to the properties at the back?
When it comes to that, the hardy siding was sort of added as a third cladding material. So we were pretty happy with how the front part looked, but we needed a third cladding material for a couple different accent bits. So yeah, I can see how the backyard, that back elevation has a bit of a big hardy section. And that's something that we can absolutely look at, soften it up a bit, add some of the cement panels in a different spot. But yeah, okay, I understand.
Okay, those were my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Paul?
Yeah, the only question I have is the reason for the gap. I can sort of understand it, but that's my only question, is the gap between the second floor sections of the building.
Yep, and I mean,
Okay.
I'm not sure I have anything else to say besides that the reason that we decided on that gap, I'm pretty sure the reason behind that was that mirroring was such an issue, like for city staff and for everybody's concern, that the best way to avoid mirroring was actually to physically separate the top halves of the two units. If that's not a super big deal, if we've made a decent job of avoiding mirroring in other respects, and we want to take advantage of reducing the exterior wall insulation, the exterior wall troubles that you have to do by slapping it back together, that's absolutely something you consider, right? I understand.
I don't think it solves the problem of mirroring, and I don't think there's any mirroring if there was no gap there at all. And what you're asking for is eventually a maintenance problem, I believe. So I'd get rid of the gap, but that's my only question.
Okay, I've got a few questions. To the south side, can you show the landscape plan? I want to make sure I'm clear about, right?
Yes,
There. Can you zoom in on that, or maybe staff can, or however you want to do it? That, you basically, that's the side of the lot. So I want to make sure that I have my understanding. There's almost no room between the building and the property line and does that fence go all the way around? There would be a fence all the way around, and that's like 1.2 meters between, which is the setback required. Yeah, right there on the left, the bottoms. Okay, so that's one between the building and the property line. That's the minimum of 1.2 meters.
I believe it's 1.5 actually, maybe city staff.
Okay, but that's what's meeting. It's pretty much close to because this is a setback considered the side of the lot, even though it looks like in a sense, the back of the house. But okay, I just want to be clear. That's the 1.2, 1.5 meters. And is there a fence that goes all the way around?
Yep. Yeah, there's an existing fence there, and I mean the plan we have set we'll replace that probably with a new fence. Yeah.
Okay, just for clarification, could you show us? Okay, so on the basement line, while we're looking at this, because could you explain where it says basement, that hatched area? You were just there. Yeah, right there. What are those two hatched areas?
Yeah, so that's I mentioned it just really briefly, but that's the screw pile foundation. So because the neighbor has, quite frankly, really large trees on the south line that would impact any construction zone, in consultation with a geotechnical engineer and with our arborist, we determined that if we put this hatched portion as a screw pile foundation, which is screws into the ground and then the foundation rests on top, that would preserve any roots and not impact the trees.
So there's no building in the base, there's no room in the basement there.
Yeah, so exactly. So this area has no basement. It has the stories above it, but
okay, all right. So
the roots of the trees are just all in here.
Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to make sure clarified. So that's for the limbs of those trees, the crown of the trees will go against the building on the first floor or second floor. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. There'll have to be some trimming. Yeah.
And those are off-site trees. So did your arborist and neighbor come to an agreement about the likelihood of and Rashir may want to comment about this, that's potentially a significant amount of trimming on those trees. I drove by the lot. It's a beautiful lot, and there's great trees. I mean, I didn't inspect the trees for their health, but I read your arborist report. I mean, those are the trees that are to be saved back there are really add to the property, but in 5 years, will they still be there? I mean, or 10 years. So that's because if that requires, anyway, I'll leave that. It's sort of a comment, but it's my question about the protection of those trees, because the limbs are going to have to be cut off in order to not hit against the house.
Yeah. So I think how that goes, I mean, I'm not an arborist and I'd have to speak with our arborist, but I do know that this sort of circle is not necessarily representative of the crown of the trees. That's just the area that the tree protection zone would have to be. But yeah, that's probably a question for our arborist to talk and make sure.
No, they really do. I mean, I looked at the site. I mean, I know they're at the corner, so maybe the ones on the left, the bottom left there won't be affected, but I'm just wondering if there's some big trees there. And that one there is hitting against the house. Rashir, I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot now. If that
no, absolutely. The issue, those protection lines are not just the limbs. It also is the root area, root ball, the level in which the undisturbed surface should be maintained, because that all affects trees' health and chances to survive after the onslaught of construction. So in this situation, it all depends on how careful or what your arborist allows in terms of disturbance in the tree zone, because here it looks like there's a pathway here And then there's also some construction happening in the root zone area. So it might not be possible to maintain, especially the large tree that we see 673, I guess it is.
673, yeah.
Yeah, the largest one. So looks to me that might not be possible to retain. Other ones are rather simple. There might be impervious paving proposed here. I know you've proposed more like a socket concrete, but you might have to have a permeable paving proposed here and could be doable in supervision of your arborist. But I don't think that large tree is going to be to survive.
I would say.
Okay, I guess
have to
I'll
look
come
at
back to that on my comments about, or maybe you want to say, you have a legal agreement with the neighbor on this is the neighbor's tree, right?
Yep, neighbor's tree. It's actually right on the property line, but it's neighbor's tree. Our arborist, in his arborist report, I mean, he's the one who recommended the screw pile foundation, and he's the one who determined sort of the location that this screw pile foundation would have to be, the location of the house. So I know it's a concern for everybody. It is something that our arborist has looked at, and we can.
Sure. No, that's fine. I think we should take his word on it because he's the registered professional. So if that is what he's recommended, then so be it.
Okay. Could you show, I want to keep moving ahead. Could you, the garbage and pickup area, and you talked about the screening in that corner, it has, again, where is that? Because that's part of the development, the guidelines addresses that.
Yeah. Would I be able to get city staff to just quickly mention this? Because we had a discussion about this earlier today. I don't want to overstep or anything. I can talk briefly if you guys don't want to, but just this section right here. Yeah.
Is it outside the house?
Yes. Yeah, so.
Joe, do you want to speak to where we stand on this, or should I? Sorry, Joe, you're muted.
Need to, if you wouldn't mind speaking to it, I think you've worked with the applicant so far.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, there was a bit of correspondence we had with the applicant earlier in the day about this enclosure for the garbage bins, and there is an issue of encroachment in a sense with the RT1 zone for the exterior side yard, because what was proposed is an enclosure, but then the applicant is open to the idea of not having this enclosure, because if it's just independent bins that is going to be kept on their staff will measure the setback from the principal building. But because it's an enclosure, we would end up having to take the setback distance from this enclosure to the property line, making an issue of non-conformance with this setback requirement.
So basically, if I can read, it hasn't been resolved, but would it be out? So there are two choices, I gather. There's one is to have the garbage and the recycling within the house and then moved out on garbage day. Is that? But the other option is to have a structure where the garbage and recycling bins would be. Is that sort of a choice? That's the two things that are being considered?
So that is what is proposed. The applicant has proposed an enclosed space for the bins on the outside.
Okay. Where would that be? Where, just if that was, where would it be?
You sort of still see my speak. This was my vision anyways, because it.
I don't want to belabor it because if it's in discussion, but.
Yeah, like on the where is that? The east side. There's a little spot right here that we just set aside.
Oh, I see. But that would be for both houses. For both houses.
No, that's for the one house, and then here's the other ones right there. They both.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, while we're here, okay, I understand. So that's under discussion. So my next question is about the landscape plan. There are some shrubs just above there, just in the top left, that are city shrubs. I assume that are those being retained? Yeah,
yep.
Right along there. Those are being retained.
Yeah. Yep, that's the plan, to retain those guys.
Okay, and the sidewalk which would be a great improvement, that would go all the way around along
Yeah.
or just on Cliff?
Well, we've got, right now, there is an existing sidewalk right here. And
Oh,
it
okay.
just goes right across the street, right? And it ends about here or what have you. So the proposed sidewalk would be another one, sort of starting to extend this
Okay.
sidewalk on this side of the street.
And then it would just end because there's no sidewalk elsewhere.
Well, when the next property gets, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's up to the city at some point. All right, I want to keep moving. These are supposed to be questions. Do you have anything about EV ready in the garages?
When my normal construction, I usually put EV ready in there. Yeah, I would put rough in for that. Yes.
Oh, I didn't say anything about that. So, okay, that would be something. And my last, I think that's it for questions. I'll have a bunch of comments later on. Let me just, oh, sorry. Can you explain why the garage doors are we could go back to the theme that we've been talking about. If you go back to the rendering on the side and about the differentiation. Can you explain, you wanted to make it, yeah, that's good. You wanted to make a differentiation, and yet the two garage doors are the same. Can you give us your thinking of why they're the same as opposed to different? I'm not making a judgment here. I'm just, that would have been a logical thing, maybe a terrible choice, but why they're the same.
Yeah, well, maybe something that was missed, I suppose. I mean, I like this color scheme. I thought that white garages would go really nicely, but something, a different garage door, a brown colored garage door, or something like that. Yeah, that's a good point, right? We could absolutely.
No, I'm not making a point. I'm just asking a question whether you considered it and why I can see pros and cons about it. And I would I think the architects may have more comments than me. All right, I think that answers my questions. And now we'll go to, is that it? Does anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, we'll go to comments, questions. Okay. So let's go to comments, and we don't have to, we can circle around on those. So I'm going to pick Jim again first on this comments from Jim. It's sort of a discussion
Sure.
as well as comments. So it may come back to you a second time if you want.
No problem. Thank you. First of all, I really like the project. I like the design of it. I really think it's appropriate for the use of that lot going from single family to this project makes a lot of sense. And I like the modern design. I think it picks up nicely on what the neighbors are doing. The coloration, I like modern design like this. It makes a lot of sense. The comments I would have, I think, have been echoed already. The big one being that gap between the two buildings. I can see why you did it, although my reason, I thought you were trying to break up the masses, but you're saying you're trying to avoid the mirroring. I don't know if it does that, but I don't mind the gap if maybe it's wider or something where you can actually get in between it, but even that would be kind of strange. I like the idea of it kind of breaking up the masses. You don't have the two on the same plane, the two buildings as well. They're on different planes. So that kind of helps. My fear is that if you close the gap, it's going to look like one big building. So I don't really know what the answer is there, but you gotta, yeah, that's something that has to be looked at. The color on the back, I think you mentioned that rust. I like that hardy and the vertical and that dark. I wish it could find its way to the front somehow. Accents here and there. You mentioned the garage door. Maybe that's how you do it. I think that would help. They're fairly big though. You said 1,300. I'd like, because you mentioned they're affordable, and I guess they are more affordable than just a single family, but they're still pretty big. So I'm not sure how that fits the affordable category. But again, I do like this project, and really those are the main comments that I have. I think it's a good presentation.
Okay. Should we go to Faye? Comments?
Sorry, I was muted. Other than the questions that I asked about the gap between, I like the project. I think that it definitely complements the other houses in the area. I think there just needs to be some work around I think you're struggling a little bit with the issue of trying not to mirror. So the comment that came out, I can't remember who made it, about the garage. The garages are identical, so you might want to do something with the garages other than that. And also around the gap in between on the second floor.
Okay, thank you. Rushir?
Yeah, I really like the project as well. Quite a few good things going for the project here. I think you've done really well by working with your volumes, etc., not to have a mirrored effect. You can still, yes, do maybe a different color, have the same pattern, but do a different color in the garages, etc. Those are some of the small things, and you've done quite well. So I would leave it to you to consider those. Few points that could enhance, in my opinion, the project as a whole. First of all, that gap at the top does not make any sense to me for multiple reasons, as I told you, which I questioned you about energy loss, debris being there. You see that gap between the roof at the top. You know, rodents can climb, go through it, but at the same time, not enough separation. There is a separation. External wall exposed to elements, losing energy, and tough to maintain. So lot of things, and I guess that little space, if you club them together, could add a lot of value of breaking down the mass on either sides. So I think that can go a long way in enhancing the quality of the project. I also feel the posts that you have on the second level are rather frail in comparison to the floor below. I don't know the answer how to treat those, but I think they could be treated slightly differently. There are also some horizontal windows I see up top. I don't know what room is that. If you see, yeah, where you've got your cursor, yes, that one. I would try and capture as much. I don't know what space is that, so but I would like to have capture with more vertical, more robust window openings wherever possible, because it's got a lot of expanse around, and there's no limiting distance situation in front. Do as best as you can for that face and the one below. Going to the rear side. If you want to go to the, yes, this is kind of disappointing to me. I don't see why such large tracts of surfaces have one window each and still has a gabled kind of a look there, which hasn't been followed anywhere else, with different pitch to even that little element that you see in front. You could still have use the element of vertical hardy, have it broken down, have some relation with the volumes at the top, and treat the back elevation, I think, better. There could be definitely more potential of design development than the back elevation. I would strongly recommend having lesser of a separation than the picket fences that you've proposed. Have more visible transparency as best as you can, with created by plants, with frailer fences, and all those. Otherwise, by and large, it's got a lot of stuff going for it. One of the better houses that we've seen, duplexes or houses that we've seen in recent times come to ADP. So I like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I think this is a really well-conceived project. Could I see the floor plan, please? First floor plan.
Actually, just a sec, let me get the one that I can zoom in on a bit better. We're looking at main floor plan. Yep.
Okay. Good. One of the things that I thought you've done very, very cleverly here is made use of a corner lot to have the entrances totally separate, and one only questions the address will be a problem because they're both state road addresses, but anyway, that's very nice. The garage doors, I don't have a problem with them both being the same tall. And the rear elevation that Rashir brought up, the comments of that are, it is a disappointing rear elevation. And I think if you mirrored more of the elements in the rear elevation that you have on the front elevation, it would be a lot more appealing from that side. And the windows seem kind of small and you know, I think you could be a little more generous. The gable, the pitched roofs there, I don't know, it doesn't seem to tie in with the rest of it very well, and maybe you could play with that a little bit to get it more interest and maybe with fenestration, but maybe staggered roof lines. I don't know, but all in all, I think it's a good project, and I certainly don't have any problems with it at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now for my comments. First of all, I'm, you know, this is the type of project with the documentation that you've given us and the thought that's gone into it is really high quality, and you know, it takes a lot to get through this design panel sometimes. So kudos to how everybody's spoken positively about this. There'll always be issues. To me, I'm going to first comment on some details. The garage pickup area is just a very practical one, and you're gonna have to work that out with the city to make it work. The EV ready is something that's coming along, and I didn't say any documentation, but I assume that's going to be written into into what you're planning. It's interesting, the issue about the street addresses I was going to raise, as Paul did, and it gets to the question about the separation. I love that there's one entrance on Stayte Road and one on Cliff. But can you get two different addresses? And this gets to a practical thing. A pizza delivery man's not going to know where the heck to go. He's going to, you know, if you go on Cliff, or if it's you know what I mean, it's a very practical thing for the people that live there, and that's one of the jobs that we have as a design panel, is about the livability and the practicality. So I would just encourage, if it's possible, to get a Cliff Avenue for one address for one, and keep the State for the other one. It's sort of it's a comment, it's a question, but right now, are they both going to be on State Road addresses?
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably maybe a question for the city, because yeah, like, I mean, duplex, does it still keep Stayte Road? I mean, it's a Stayte Road address right now because it's a single family home facing Stayte Road. Right now, it's going to be a duplex, one facing Stayte Road, one facing Cliff. So
with on one lot, it's one lot. It's one lot with two houses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so can we look at the rendering in the front? Because this is a big issue that's come up, and I think there may be a split between, sort of like, the one on the left. I love the one, the Stayte Road entrance. That's great. This one about the gap. Yeah, I'm an environmentalist, and I really hear what some of the others are saying, like what Rashir just said about energy loss. But on the other hand, the last thing I want to see is what looks like one house with a 4-car garage. You know, so we've got to avoid that. So how to avoid it? And right now, I think this helps the way we have it. So what's how else would you? It's really it's a comment with a rhetorical question of how to make sure it looks like two separate homes. So I think it looks like that now, sort of.
Yeah.
You know, my comment before about why, or ask a question about why the garage doors were the same. making them different could ruin the whole look of it. Making them, one gray and one white, or one black and one white. I think that may make it awful looking. So I actually like this a lot. If it wasn't for the issues that some others about the practicality, the maintenance, the energy loss, I think this is great. I think there's a unique, anyway, that's sort of a comment. So I would leave it unless this way, but I sympathize with, or share some of the comments about the practicality and energy loss of that split on the second floor. The other thing is, go ahead.
If I have a minute just to speak briefly about things like energy loss and energy efficiency. With modern houses, the thickness of the walls and the insulation in the walls, the point of that is to make that very thick and very strong nowadays. So we're all concerned about energy loss and all that, but with the insulation that we put in, the exterior, the walls, the interior, I think that hopefully can be a little bit mitigated. Like, honestly, adding the extra windows would be way more of an energy loss probably than getting rid of the exterior walls, right? Walls are pretty well insulated. Just sort of a general comment.
That would be my sense too, and also it gives more privacy in terms of noise and things between. But you know what? I think you can solve it. I like this. I think from a practical point of view, the question, I go back to the pizza delivery or friends coming, about that door on the west, the building on the right may be seen as the front door for the whole thing. So again, practical stuff about how to have a separate address and a prominent number, or because the one on Stayte Street is going to be a little hidden the way Stayte Road is, and the trees there. All right, so I think that gets to my last comment is about the trees. Your arborist report was written earlier in the fall, I think, or in the summer. And since that was done, there's the city bylaw, tree bylaw has changed. So the protected trees are no longer, before it was protected trees where the diameter at height, breast height, was 30 centimeters. It's now been reduced to 20. So there may be more protected trees that are covered by the new bylaw than you have identified. I don't think it's going to change your plans. It just means that there may be, when you go through the approval process, you may have to plant more trees, you may have to pay more money, you may have to, I'm not sure what the implications will be, or even if you have any that are between 20 and 30 centimeters in diameter. It's just you're in that transition zone between the old bylaw. Well, there's a new bylaw, and your thing was done before by the old one. So it's a comment to be aware of. With that, I'll say I support this. I like it. I think you've got a few practical things to deal with, and so those are, I think, all my comments. So where are we? Anybody else have any more comments given the round? Like, if I go back to Jim, the people that spoke earlier on Jim, Faye, any of you want to make more comments, or otherwise we would go to a recommendation, and I'm not sure what direction we're going on that.
Gil, it's Faye. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Faye.
Okay, so Joseph, when the question came up about would there be separate addresses, so would one address be Stayte and one address be Cliff? Is there a bylaw about this? Because it's one lot, it's one property, which is located on Stayte.
Yeah, and it happens to be a corner property, which makes it a little bit unique, And so I think it is possible to get an address on Stayte and an address on Cliff. It is possible to do that under the addressing bylaw. So,
okay.
And it seems to be the right thing to do in this case. So we'll figure out a way to do it that way.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to know, just interest as well.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, just a brief one on the rear elevation. Yeah, I do agree. When I look at it, I like the simplicity of it, but you do have a family room, it looks like, that has no window in both. So you should probably pop some windows out from the family room to the back. And then the notch. So maybe one idea is, sorry, the gap between the buildings, maybe it becomes like a deep notch. Maybe they are connected, but more at the back, not so much in the front. So from the front, it looks like they're separated, and you've got a more of a notch. So that's just a suggestion.
Okay. All right, any other comments? Otherwise, I would suggest that somebody make a recommendation, or move a recommendation.
Sure, I will make a recommendation to support the project pending a resolution of minor issues and bring it to the council.
Anyone want to second that?
Yep.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion going on about that? So, Rashir, this is similar to the one before on Kent Street where staff would come up with a list of bullet points of the key issues that were raised?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I add in one of those, or maybe it's a separate recommendation about I don't know if we need, maybe Joe can tell us, is about the addresses that we recommend separate addresses, one on Cliff and one on State.
Why don't
Is that
as a separate recommendation, Mr. Chairman?
Say that again, please?
Perhaps you could make that as a separate recommendation.
Okay. Yeah,
that's
I'll do that because I don't think I think it's relevant. So, any discussion then about this recommendation? So it would not come back to us. It's going to council with to let staff work with the proponent to address some of the issues that we've discussed. All right, no more. So can we have a vote on this recommendation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Rashir, you're there. Okay. Is there somebody I can't see? There are only 4 of us now.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Phil?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
Okay, so anybody against? I guess that's unanimous. Good, thank you. Now, before we go, I'd like to make I will move a motion that we recommend that there be, that this property have 2 addresses, or the 2 buildings have separate addresses, one on State as 1091 Stayte Road, and the other one have an address on Cliff, is it Cliff Avenue? Yes, yep. Cliff Avenue. Anybody want to
I'll make that motion if you like, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions about it? Any downside? I don't know.
No, we are all good, I think.
Okay, yeah. And those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody, no, okay, you're, yes, okay.
Yes,
yes. Oh, that's right, there are 5 of us. I forgot Paul, so I can see Paul now. All right, good. So that passes, both recommendations or motions passed unanimously. So thank you to the applicant. Excellent work. You got a little bit more, and I guess my job now is to see where we're going on there. We're finished with that second one. Any questions, Joe or the applicant? No? Okay. So is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So before we go to the conclusion, close the meeting, I want to leave it to staff or Joe Kalenda. Is there anything that we should know about as a committee about what's coming up?
I will tell you that we are working on the Housing Strategy Action Plan with the Housing Advisory Committee. And right. There's a meeting Thursday, after which we should have a skeleton of a plan with a fair bit of flesh on it. You know? The objective is to have this plan more or less drafted by the end of April. The other thing you should be aware of course, is April 19, which is when we're having our affordable housing partnership seminar, to which you have all been invited. And I hope you can, as many of you as can, I hope we're able to attend. Yeah, that's it. And I can certainly give you more next time. And of course, you know that there's a new planning director who's been hired. It is Ann Berry. She is currently the director of the District of Pitt Meadows, and she'll be on board April 4th in the office here.
Well, Joe, you've been with us for a short period, but it's been delightful. So you're going to go back into retirement, at least for a bit. All
Well,
right.
let's say the journey continues. So,
so question, or do we have a meeting then that we're going to, on April 12th?
yes.
Okay.
So what was the scheduled meeting of April 19th has been changed to April 12th. So as
And
far
we
as I
think we
know,
have
we will have quorum.
Okay.
But if we don't, we won't have a meeting. So.
Okay, but you have a project you think that's going to be ready for that. That's all.
Well, I'm not sure yet, but you know, it's quite a while between now and April 12th. So.
Okay, so we'll all just keep everybody try to keep April 12th free for a meeting, and if it's canceled, it's canceled.
Yeah.
And April 19th for the workshop if you can attend that. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Otherwise, I'll take, I don't know if I need a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn would be in order.
All right. Everybody have a wonderful evening. See you on April 12th, I guess.